I pledge of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order here with a roll call. We have Councilor Baumgartner here. Evers is absent. Ferguson appears absent. I am here. Howard here. We do have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order here. First piece of business here is should we wait till she gets here maybe?
That might have been her. Can you open?
Oh, Councilor Ferguson is here too.
Yeah, if you want to table that. She said that she was coming.
You have to say the sounds.
Can I get a motion to table item number 2 until Rachel comes here?
I'll make a motion to stand by.
Wait, one second.
All right.
Well, recant my opinions of a motion.
Okay, so item number 2 is recognition for the 2025 city photo contest. So we have the pleasure of recognizing an individual whose talent and creativity have beautifully captured the spirit of our community. This was the first year that the city of Olivia hosted a photo contest to celebrate the people, places, and the moments that make our city unique. This year, we received a handful of entries, each offering a different lens into life here in the Corn Capital. It is my honor to announce that the winner of the 2025 City of Olivia photo contest is Rachel Evers. Rachel submitted 4 outstanding photographs, each one winning its respective category. She is the winner on landscape, animals, lifestyle, and city parks. Her work stands out for the way it reflects the character of our community. We look forward to proudly showcasing Rachel's photography in City Hall, as well as on the city's website and social media platforms, so that the entire community can enjoy and celebrate her work. On behalf of the City Council and the entire community, I want to congratulate Rachel on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you for sharing your talent with us and helping us tell Olivia's story in such a memorable way. Please join me in congratulating Rachel Evers, our 2025 contest winner.
Thank you.
Now there's a certificate for you. Put on your trophy case.
Come to the front so I can take a
Oh,
picture
yeah.
with the seal in the back. Yeah, if you want to. You look very nice today. Thank you. Yeah. It's been a busy day. Yeah. Can you this way just a little bit? There you go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you, Rachel.
Congratulations, Rachel. Thank you for participating.
Yeah. Have a good evening. Yes, you too.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the public forum portion of the agenda. This is the time when we invite members from the public to address council. We ask that you provide your name for the meeting minutes, and speaking time will be limited to 3 minutes. If there's any unfinished business to attend to after that, we'll have staff work with the public on that situation. So now would be a time to address the council if somebody's here to do that. I'm not seeing any action here in chambers, and it looks like online activity. Anybody online there? Doesn't totally look like it. So we'll close down the public forum portion of the meeting, reopen the regular meeting with the setting of the agenda. We've got the agenda here. We've had basically the same agenda since Wednesday. Had a chance to look over it. If there's any items to move from consent agenda into discussion items or any other adjustments, now would be a great time to suggest that. Otherwise, we can. I will accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Howard to approve the agenda as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed? Agenda carries as written. So we'll move down to the consent agenda. It includes regular meeting minutes of our November 17 meeting, resolution 119, authorizing the certification of unpaid refuse charges to the Renville County Auditor for inclusion on the tax rolls for 2026. Resolution 120, acknowledging the outside gambling premises permit requested by St. Mary's, and November disbursements. I'll call for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
One thing on that one that I
Disbursements?
nope on that, permit,
The gambling one?
yep.
The resolution in your Wednesday packet had this as 2025/XXX. It's been updated to 120.
Okay, but the raffle event is on Saturday, July 11th, 2025.
Oh, 2026. Okay. Thank you.
I'll call for a motion to approve with that adjustment.
So,
Thank you.
I'll call for a second. Motion's been made by Howard, seconded by Ferguson to approve the amended consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda carries as written. We're moving right on down to business items here. We have resolution 118. It's a resolution ordering the abatement of conditions creating a public nuisance and hazardous property existing at 1106 Ash Avenue West.
So as you may recall, this was tabled at our last meeting. We did go back to review the property after the property owners were present. It did not meet our kind of satisfactory bar for cleanup. We did, in preparation for tonight's meeting, we did go out and take photos at 3:30 p.m. today of the property and what it looks like. Just so that we could stay on top of it, of everything that's happening. So in my discretion, this is not satisfactory to have a cleaned up property. And so I just wanted to present you with what all is still happening at that property. And then Pam can jump in with where we go from here.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Done anything to address the property since the other pictures are taken?
I will say what the resident has done is, let's see, let's scroll back up here. So this is all in a pile under a tarp. So there have been some effort extended onto the property. However, I don't think it's enough effort extended to clean up the property. If we're going out and enforcing our nuisance code and, trying to set a standard, an achievable standard for all properties, I don't think this property and the efforts these residents have expended have met that threshold. Hey Pam, we're gonna see if we can hear you again.
Okay, how is it now?
Not yet.
What about now? I'll keep turning it up.
Okay, there you go, you're good.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Council, so Elizabeth, maybe you can, well, thank you for taking the pictures, the photographs today. And I believe that one of the things was junk vehicles as well. And I believe I saw in the pictures that there are still junk vehicles that are out there, which are defined as expired, not working, not registered, that type. Is that accurate?
Yes. Nope. The junk vehicles.
The 2026 stickers.
Okay.
What about the first one? There was like a sedan.
I know the camper isn't current. That's been there without registration.
Is this one operating?
That should have a red sticker, so it should be November.
It has a red sticker, so it's registered. We can't vouch if they're operating or not.
Okay, so that is one thing that I just wanted to point out that's separate from just our nuisance ordinance with respect to items and garbage and debris that's in the yard. Junk vehicles are also a separate section in actually state law, but if we don't have any of those, then I wanted to just have that discussion quickly. But if the council decides tonight that this property still is in violation of our city code and is creating a nuisance for the community and for the neighboring properties and a safety concern, then the next steps would be that attached to the resolution there is a proposed order that the resolution directs me to serve on the property owners. The property owners would have 20 days to either remedy the situation or respond to me to be able to develop a plan to remedy the situation. And if neither of those things happen, then we pursue enforcement of your resolution and order in district court. And so the district court takes a look at what your authorities are to regulate your own community and will enforce or not enforce your resolution. So the district court is going to be looking for testimony, discussion, the record tonight to show it, if we have to ask the court to enforce it, that you had a thoughtful conversation about your code and about this how the situation at the property with respect to these items. There does seem to be quite a bit of debris that is still left. I don't know that we've gotten documentation in the packet of reports from neighbors. Obviously, the actual identities of neighbors would not are not public data, but I do know that verbally there has been some complaints from neighboring properties as well. So, and just keeping in mind that when you have that kind of buildup, like you see in that picture of construction materials, oftentimes that houses critters, which is then a health, welfare, and safety concern.
Any questions? For myself or Pam or Chief, who took the photos and inspected the property at 3:30 this afternoon.
Well, according to, if I've read it correctly, according to our ordinance, if it's got valid stickers on it, that's untouchable.
Unless we can prove visually that it's inoperable, which is a flat tire, missing tire, a transmission, up on jack, something obvious, that I'm willing to testify that I believe that it's inoperable. None of these appear that way, that I would testify that they're inoperable. We do have a new issue now with the location of two of the vehicles. Our city street gentleman will literally probably damage these vehicles because they're parked literally right next to the alley, so close that they're gonna get hit with snow. I don't know what the setback is required for that, but that's not gonna make their job any easier. And now one of the buildings apparently is a building. I don't know if we run into another issue of too many outbuildings. I think he has two of them out there in the back now. I don't know. That would probably more of Marissa as far as what they can have, what they can't have, zoning requirements, where they can be, how they have to be secured. I think we're dealing with more again than less, and obviously the tarps were just a Band-Aid. And it was described to me as now it's just an organized rat hole. I was like, okay, well, I can put that in my report too, but that's not my words, so it's someone else's.
This seems very broad. Is there
Which part?
something that they have, do you have like something that you're asking them to do? It seems very, we're like adding more right now.
We've been asking them to clean up their yard, to put things in storage, to put things away, to clean it up since May.
Is there like a list of what can be where, what, or is it just like a general?
It's a general, like, we need, in our code, it says, you know, a lot of these things have to be in a storage facility, not under tarps or anything like that, in a garage, in a basement, or to get rid of things.
There is an incident report that has like line items, if that's what you're asking. It addresses expired registrations on vehicles that have probably been addressed, but piles of wood and debris in the yard, a shed lying on its side, I'm not sure if that's been addressed or not, but miscellaneous steel,
Did they fix
metal, wood,
Yeah, they took it up.
and boards piled in the yard and overgrown with weeds and grass, so if that, you know, if that's kind of what you're referring to.
Well,
that
it's just
is
kinda like-
documented.
What's gonna, you know, now there's like the shed and the car's too close to the alley. Do we have
That's a whole new problem.
something?
Yeah, we'll
So
focus.
that's not tied to anything.
Oh, that's
focus
just
on-
the for me of what the current status is. If we wanna address it, that's a whole new start of okay, you need to move the cars back, and that will be this whole process over again. I'm just advising you where we're at, now we
What's
have
happening?
additional problems we're gonna have to deal
Yeah.
with on top of what's already there.
Yeah, we're not dealing with vehicle location, as Chief brought up, we're not dealing with the number of outbuildings, we are solely looking at the accumulated debris on the parcel.
So the standard for council under the city code is whether it is a condition which unreasonably annoys, injures, or endangers the safety, health, comfort of any considerable number of members of the public, interferes with or obstructs or renders dangerous passage from streets or right-of-ways. And so that is with respect to 9215. 9216 is when you have decay of food, vegetable matter, food matter, diseased animals running around, accumulation of debris, garbage cans which are not being maintained and has overflow of garbage into the yard, noxious weeds and those types of hazards in the property and nuisances. That's going to be causing some impact to the neighboring properties.
And so the resident was given a list of things to do to fix up, to get out of violation.
I believe the city did photos and a breakdown of what we saw originally, and then so in this process over the last half a year, we've gone from taking original photos to updating photos where some stuff has been moved, some stuff has been removed, some stuff has been brought in, kind of a rotation of items. And at that time I said, I need a warrant to go on that property to identify exactly what's there. But until I'm ordered to do that, I won't do that. I think that's an invasion unless we're to that point. I think we had clearly enough just from the alley and the road, to show that it needs to be cleaned up. But, yeah, it's kind of all summer long it's been dealing with this.
The city has been working with this resident who initially said, well, the building material is for a shed. We said, okay, if it's for a shed, you need to submit a building permit, we need to see progress on this, and that's where it ended. So we did give them an extension. Again, the first notice in May was to say, hey, we have a city cleanup day, dumpsters for free for us to help you deal with this. And they did not take advantage of that opportunity. They did not file the necessary paperwork to utilize these items to build a shed. Then I'm sure there would have been questions about outbuildings that popped up during that process. And so we have been consistently tracking this issue all summer and fall.
So just a background question. I mean, it looks like technically, yeah, they're in violation of the code and they need to clean up. Are there any other properties around town that are in the same category that we aren't asking them to clean up? I mean, I wouldn't want them to come back and say, well, you're enforcing me, but you're not enforcing.
We did a bunch of letters, I believe City Hall did prior to the dumpsters going out, and a lot of people took advantage of it. But yeah, this is probably the only one that we haven't seen a substantial change in that we moved forward. And then again, we get complaints on this one, so that also pushes a little farther. Well, we try not to go out and look for them, but if we get a complaint, we obviously go and say, yep, I get it, you don't appreciate that in your backyard or as you drive by. So some have been addressed, and we have another property down by the school that comes and goes. We'll address it with them, they'll clean it up, and guess what, then they come in and bring more crap in.
So usually it gets addressed when you bring it up to people, they fix it right away.
They've made substantial progress.
The majority of people in town do. And I will say the letter that the City Hall came up with was very helpful. In the past, we had never done that before. But the letter and then offering that disposal area, that I think made a big difference this last year.
Yeah, that was huge.
Compared to years in the past, we haven't had that much cooperation.
I saw a lot of stuff cleaned up.
Yeah.
I myself personally.
Yeah. And we'll bring it back we're bringing it back 2026, so we will use the same strategy that if we see especially properties that we think could benefit, to make sure that they get a little extra push and notification about the event.
I really like that you guys, on a side note, take that proactive strategy with dealing with these things, with sending out those letters and talking to people and then allowing them a space where they can get rid of their stuff. That's huge, and maybe more people will take advantage of it now.
Yeah.
It's effective.
Hopefully everybody got rid of their 5 mattresses that they were holding on to with the first trash removal event. And then not as many for the second.
We had one dumped at the liquor store.
Can I also add, just, I know that, I know one of the council members, I can't recall which one, had asked about whether they had gotten notice of what to do. And so if you look at exhibits C and D to the resolution itself, those are the notice of orders and then the incident report. And the incident report in particular, both of them lay out what needs to be done, but the incident report in particular, especially on the second page, bullet points out things that need to be specifically addressed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It says like the shed, the vehicle, the pile of wood, but then, you know, like, are we gonna, and debris in the yard, what's debris, or are they fixing the bikes? You know, there's just not like, there's wiggle room on, like, from a legal standpoint, Pam, you would know, there's wiggle room to argue. You said this, this, and this. You didn't say anything about my pile of bikes. You specifically named the debris in the wood, but didn't say anything about my bike, my windows, my frames. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there is wiggle room to make the argument. That's why I'm saying, did somebody go through and actually say, hey, this, because you have the pictures, this spot right here needs to be removed, this spot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where, like, and what can't be done. Like, if, for instance, they're fixing it with tarping it, you know, putting it under a nice little neat tarp, covered up in an area. Is that a viable way to fix something or not? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different when it's only one pile. Like, let's say you're gonna build a shed next spring and there's a fall sale on wood. So you buy a whole everything and then tarp it up nicely like that and cover it up. I feel like that is something that you should be able to do in that instance. But when you mix it up with everything else, and then it becomes a different, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Right, and so this is a great conversation for council to have, because that's the council's decision. Looking at the pictures, reading your ordinance, because you're the legislators for your, you know, and then you're in your more judicial role, you're making that determination based on how the ordinances read, whether this is in violation of your ordinances or not. You certainly can direct staff to be more, you know, take another bite at the apple and work with the property owner and be more specific too, if that is something that you would prefer to do before ordering the actual process of abatement.
What are the costs involved with abatement?
So it would be the service of the actual abatement order on the property owner. So we have to use a process service to do that. That's usually, I don't know, I think like $300-400 to do that. Depends on how long it takes to find them. But I think these individuals are are around and can be located. And then filing fees, if the property owner doesn't remedy the situation, then the enforcement of the filing fees, which are $300 to $500, I believe, for filing fees in the court. And then just really more my time in arguing it and preparing the documents. Any costs that are incurred, including your costs to pay me to enforce it, are assessable against the property under the special assessment process and it going on the tax roll. So, but you're paying for it on the front end.
Is it reasonable to go there in one last shot across the bow, like, hey, do this, or the enforcement action's coming?
We've done that. We've done this in criminal court as well. So he's been told by a judge in criminal court, this is now we're trying the civil way. They've been told, they've been given certain milestones to hit in criminal court that they haven't hit. And so it's ultimately, as Pam says, up to you, but we continue extending this on and on and on. When we have heard from the council this year, we want you to be on top of nuisances. And so this is where we're trying to find, okay, we're trying to stay on top, and this is by no means a fast process, right? The first nuisance letter was May, we're here the 1st of December. So it's just kind of juggling that as well, but we have addressed this through our city prosecutor. So they've been in court for this issue already, we're doing this in a 2-pronged process.
And they were here at the last meeting and told us that they didn't know why they were here because they handled everything that they needed to handle in the other court. So as far as they were concerned, they were done. We shouldn't be here now. We've already done everything. Well, that's obviously not true.
Well, that's where I'm saying that there's no like clear line of what is okay and what isn't. That's, and
I mean, if you.
this is being brought to us when there's snow cover on the ground too. This
These
is,
letters went out in May.
right, it could have, right, I get that they got the first stuff in May, but it's literally being brought to us and I'm looking at it all covered in snow. You know what I mean, like,
Okay.
3 weeks ago, they still had plenty of opportunities.
Yes, and they came to the last meeting, there wasn't snow on any of that then.
no, I understand that, but I'm just saying, they came to the last meeting and then you guys addressed it and told them that it wasn't good enough. You had a conversation with them.
I
and
sent
said-
them a letter. The main property owner was not available to have a face-to-face conversation with, but we did send them a letter saying, we drove by your property after you said that everything was cleaned up and it's not cleaned up. It's not satisfactory. So we did send a letter. We received no response to that letter.
And you told them we were voting tonight on it?
Yeah, and I mean, we told them while they were here that this issue is tabled until December 1st. So they heard that while they were here as well.
Did you say it in the letter?
I believe so. I'll have to double check the letter.
It feels a little bit like, well, are we going to have an ordinance or
Correct.
not?
Right,
And if,
yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
I want the ordinance, I don't want the city to be dirty, I don't like it when. You know, people don't take care of their stuff and they just throw trash around. So I think this is an enforceable action, it sounds like they've gotten lots of talking to, and so. Good enough, I would say proceed.
Yes, I agree.
Anybody wanna take action?
I'll make the motion. To go ahead and move forward with this.
So resolution 119,
118.
Second,
Motion's been made to approve resolution 118 by Howard and seconded by Baumgartner. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Yeah.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving down to the first reading of ordinance 11, which is amending certain provisions of chapter 53 of city code related to garbage and refuse and adding additional provisions, creating a limited exemption.
Yeah, so just really quick, this is we upped hearing all of your discussion. I'm trying to get to the ordinance. So hearing all of your discussion about creating an exemption to our refuse process. I worked with Pam. I also worked with Craig to update chapter 53 of the city code, garbage and refuse. You'll see here the underline and the underlined is double underline is what we added. The strike through is what we deleted. So we updated the section on the city compost site. It was still in city code that there were keys to the gate. This compost site is open. Then we added in exemption from solid waste collection requirements, private composting requirements. We heard that, as well as to explicitly write out that incineration is not an approved method of getting rid of refuse. We added a couple of definitions, and then of course we adjusted the numbering. So this would be the first reading of the ordinance. And then we would, if you all approve with no changes, we would then put it on the agenda for the next meeting to move forward with approving this. And then the next meeting, we'd also present you with a form, so people who are interested in exemptions, you would all get a chance to look at the form that they would fill out. Any questions on that?
Did we work? We discussed what is a.
Environmentally sound alternative.
Yes.
Yep. And that's laid out in here. Yep. So, and I'm working with John Mitchell at Arswa for that too. Yep. So. That is in here.
Yeah, I see that it's there, but I'm just curious as to how far we went with that, because that is a major concern for me. I don't want somebody, you know, environmentally sound like we talked about before, you know, one person having a compost barrel or something of that sort and using and being responsible with it versus somebody else that's not going to be responsible with it. This ordinance needs to be written in such a way that we can enforce when it does get out of hand.
Yeah, and we have the private composting requirements, so we get really nitty gritty on what people can have as well as enforcement as well, yep.
Okay,
So that's just the first reading, and since it's 6 o'clock, we are gonna pivot
oh,
to Sean.
You mind just seeing if there was anybody that came in that didn't know they could come in?
If we could motion to open the public hearing.
call for a motion to open the public hearing to hear the truth and taxation budget presentation. by Sean. Motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Howard to move into the public hearing for the truth and taxation presentation portion of our meeting here. Any other? Any other remarks? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed?
Right. All right, ready to go quick here. The first slide that we have just gives a breakdown from the 2025 levy to the 2026 levy. In total, for 2026, we have proposed a 1.5% increase. And you can see there in the different areas where those changes come from. The next few slides, we kind of have a little bit more explanation of each one of those and reason behind some of the changes. So we'll move into a breakdown of the levy, kind of just in a different form to show where it all goes. The largest portion is the general fund, and that includes mayor and council, administration, elections, planning and zoning, city promotion, police department, civil defense, public works, parks, and the airport. Then we also have library, fire, debt service, the capital improvement, and the EDA. The general fund levy for 2026, we actually have a decrease from 2025. The reasoning for that is an increase in the contribution from the electric fund to offset some of the changes in the general fund. The general fund revenue sources, we have a breakdown there to show the different areas. Property tax is the largest, then local government aid, which is funding from the state, the transfer from the electric fund to the general fund, and then other revenues, some other small state grants and charges for small services, things like that. It's kind of what's captured in that other category of the revenues. And then we have the general fund expenditures by department, police and civil defense, public works, parks and rec, airport, mayor and council, administration, elections, planning and zoning, city promotion. Then we head into the library. We do have a small increase in 2026 of $4,150. This is driven pretty much completely by increase in funding for Pioneer Land, who is the company that operates the library for us.
we move into the fire department and technical rescue team. We do have a decrease there of 10,000. That decrease is due to no levy support for the tech rescue team this year. They've built up enough fund reserves to maintain their operation. They don't need a funding source from the levy for 2026. Then we have the debt service, pretty large increase for 2026. It's due to a couple of the recent bonds that City Council has approved. The 2024 A bonds for the pool project that did hit already in 2025, but there's a little bit of an increase in 2026 for that. And then the 2024 B bonds, which is the City Hall project, is the bulk of that increase. Then capital improvement, we also have a pretty significant increase. The reasoning for that is previously discussed an increase in building maintenance contributions and an increase in fire truck replacement contributions. And we have the EDA. We have a slight decrease there of $5,000. And reasoning for that is EDA has built up a reserve over the last few years that they can use a little bit of their reserves to maintain their operations, so we could decrease their levy requirement. Then we have the proposed 2026 budget total revenues for just levy impacted funds. So this doesn't include any utility funds or anything like that, just to kind of show where the revenues are coming from for all of these levy funds in general. And property tax makes up 52% of the total revenues in these funds. And then you can see in the breakdown, we have all the different areas of general fund levy, local government aid, transfer from the electric, and so on, with all the other levies and a few other miscellaneous type revenues that are on there. Here we have the total revenues for the 2026 proposed budget. This is for all the funds that we have a budget for. Shows each of those on there, with the electric utility leading the way, followed by general fund and so on. Then we have a similar graph for the total expenditures for the 2026 proposed budget. Similar, electric utility the highest, followed by general fund and so on with those. And the last slide that we have is we always show the levy impact on the residential house from 2025 to 2026. We show the total per month based on the home value of do 100,000, 140,000, and 180,000. Then we break it down on a per month cost, and then that increase or decrease per month. Then just another thing I wanted to point out, that of your total property tax that you pay, the city's portion is about 57% of the total property tax on your house. Depending on your house value, it can be a little less or a little bit more, but averages about 57% of the total property tax on your house goes towards the city. The rest would be the county and school district. School district has a few different levies in the counties. Any questions on any of that? I went through pretty quick.
Any questions from council?
No, I think we've gone over it quite a bit.
Anybody from the public wish to address council on the 2026 budget? Anybody from the public wish to address council on the 2026 budget? Not seeing any action, so I'll call for a motion to close the truth and taxation meeting and reopen regular business.
I'll make a motion to close the truth and taxation meeting, reopen for regular business.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Baumgartner to reopen the regular meeting. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move down to,
Mayor, should we move up to finish section 6?
yes. Yep, we'll move down to, up, yeah, okay.
Up to.
Yeah.
Up to.
Move up to section 6 here, item C, the first reading of ordinance 12, amending certain provisions of chapter 151 of city code and chapter 152 of city code related to city council as a board of adjustment.
Thank you. So once again, this is our first reading. We will have a second reading along with a public hearing at the next meeting. So the city had previously established the city council as the board of adjustments for various requests and appeals related to chapter 151. But in the subdivision regulations, they're established a separate independent board for variance requests and appeals related to chapter 152 zoning. So this had a lot of tendency to create confusion because there were multiple boards performing the same issue, essentially the same duties, same or similar duties. Coupled with the fact that the city has enough difficulties filling boards and commissions with the appropriate number of members. We discussed this with Pam, particularly with our last variance request process, that this would be an easy way to update our code and to kind of streamline efficiencies and to remove that burden off of that committee that hasn't been full for a year, to streamline everything with city council. And so that's what the first reading of this ordinance is.
The committee been informed?
We'll be sending, after this first reading, we'll be sending out a notification to the one non-council member on that committee. And we'll be encouraging that person to perhaps join our planning commission where we have a vacancy. So if they still feel passionate about these issues, we'd love for them to lend their expertise to the planning commission.
Which will drive a lot of this business anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we do have a spot for the one lone member if they'd like to continue.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
All right, we'll move down to item D here, which is resolution 121. So supporting application to transportation alternatives program regarding the Olivia Active Living Trail and Pedestrian Transit Plan. Basically.
Yes. So Kendra's here today to talk as well, but hopefully you reviewed the memo that I provided in your packet. So you may recall, searching your memories, the council last considered this project in May of 2024 when the city was eligible to receive a carbon reduction program grant with MnDOT for phase 3 of this project. We went through several discussions about what phase 3 could look like if it reaches all the way from Pine Circle to Memorial Park, if it stops at Fairview Avenue, what that looks like. We've adjusted phase 3 to end just from Pine Circle to go around the pond and to end at Fairview Avenue for simplicity's sake and to lower the cost. As Kendra will present, the city cost for phase 3 is estimated to be just over $318,000. And this would be for starting in 2030. That's the construction. So we would need to set aside approximately $64,000 annually between now and then, which it breaks down to a little over $21,000 per department per year. My proposal is if council wants to move forward with this project, we would split that between our park budget, and the park board has indicated a willingness to set aside some of their $35,000 annual budget to the trail. So they have indicated their interest for that. The stormwater fund, this trail would be going around a stormwater retention pond, as well as then I would be approaching the EDA to see if they want to contribute, if they are interested in contributing their share, because a lot of this land is EDA land. Of course, with the thought that in the future, they would be doing an EDA housing residential development in that area, and the trail would be a wonderful amenity to offer to a residential development. So to keep some of their skin in the game. And so that's how, between Sean and myself, we were looking at a potential funding to get us to that dollar amount for 2030. That is if council wants to move forward. If they do want to move forward, what makes our application competitive is the resolution indicating support. The county would then pass a similar resolution as well. They would be the sponsoring agency because we are a town under 5,000. Of course, all of the support does not indicate we would receive the grant. We've been told it's a very competitive grant. But these are things that these resolutions make our grant competitive as well. It's very easy, we've been told, to not see these documents from governing bodies indicating support, and those applications kind of get tossed aside. So with that overview, I'll turn it over to Kendra.
Do you have this in there by chance?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's not a big deal. So there was a flow chart, which I apologize, but I don't have an extra copy of. It just kind of walks through the steps. I know
Let me see if I
you
can
might
find
be
it.
the only one that hasn't been through it, and Elizabeth as well. I mean, Elizabeth was on like the construction side of it, but not the planning part of it. So the way these work is typically there's a 4-year timeline between when you start and when you start the application process and when construction actually begins. So if we look at this, we started technically in 2025. In October, we submitted what is called a letter of intent that we would be submitting an application or that we have interest to submit an application.
Here you go, you're up on account.
Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so I guess I will admit that these dates have not been updated. So here you see 2020, this would actually be 2025, and then we would go all the way up to 2031, which would be like the final project, and then close everything out as far as like paperwork is concerned. But in 2025, we would submit the letter of intent, which we did, and Elizabeth and Justin Black, myself, and Jeff Marlowe had a discussion with 2 people from MnDOT, so that they kind of go through a checklist of this is what is an expectation of the project, and this is what MnDOT or state aid funding is expected of the city. So you kind of get an idea of what needs to be done as far as also the extras outside of construction. So we had that meeting with them. The next portion of it won't be until 2026. So we have a application. The full application is due January 9th, and I believe that came out today.
We just got sent it today,
Yeah.
correct.
So we have until January 9th to submit a full application, which would go through in more depth and more detail what the trail is and what is expected of the city and county. I guess the county is essentially just a sponsor, as they have been for the last 2 phases of the project. This is the same application process that we did for phase 1 and for phase 2. So this is nothing new to probably the 2 of you and Mayor. So what we do is in 2026, we would submit our full application on or by January 9th. And then we would also give a project presentation to MnDOT, and coincidentally, it's in Hutchinson this year, so very convenient. You guys can see the new office. So we would go through that in 2026. They don't award anything or they don't select the projects until usually March or April, if I remember correctly, is when we find out who gets it. This year, there is $1.1 million that they have allotted to this district. And I believe there are either 4 or 5 projects at the time when we met with Bernard and Tracy that had submitted a letter of intent. So of those 5, Olivia, this phase 3 was one of those projects. So once we go through the full application and do the presentation of the project, then they discuss who is awarded the money and how much they're awarded. It doesn't mean that every project will get money, but it also doesn't mean that you will get the full amount that you were asking for. So as Elizabeth mentioned, the city portion was a little over $318,000. I guess construction that we're estimating for phase 3 of the project, just construction costs is $637,000. The city is responsible for 20% of that. So then the grant that we're asking for is 80% of that, which is $510,000. So of that $510,000, that's what we're asking for in the grant application. Again, it doesn't mean if we are awarded the project, hopefully we get that full amount. But if they're trying to give some more projects, it might not be the full intent for the full balance. If that is the case, which I think in phase 2 is actually how it went, but then there was some extra COVID money that we got handed out to help solidify the 80-20 split. But if it is not fully funded, for the 80-20 split, we can always apply for the same grant again next year to fulfill that, and we would just ask for advanced construction. Just as an option to like offset any costs that the city might have. We could also look at other grants if we weren't or are not awarded the full $510,000 that we're asking for. So that all happens in 2026. And then in 2027, we would start kind of the behind the scenes of the construction. We would do the CAT-X review. If you guys remember, it's a category exclusion where they do the environmental review. The only thing that came up on phase 1 and phase 2 is the endangered species is a long-eared bat. I don't know if you guys remember that as an endangered species, but that's due to tree removal. We had to make sure that we weren't cutting down trees when said bats were on the premises. We don't anticipate any tree removal in this phase of the project, so it shouldn't be a concern. We don't see any concern or any issues coming up in the category review or the CAT-X review, but it is still something that they will have to do. When they're doing this review, they are asked to do 2 field season studies before the project is done. So that's why we start in 2027, even though construction isn't until 2030, because they have to have 2 seasons. They have to look at it twice in the winter, twice in the spring, twice in the fall, twice in the summer. So they have to look at it over 2 seasons or 2 years for that. And then at that time, we would also look at any right-of-way or easement acquisitions, which, as Elizabeth mentioned, the only thing that we would need or the only property that we would encroach on would be property owned by the EDA. And I've had discussions with them before about this project and putting the trail on the EDA property. It would essentially be inside where a road right-of-way would have been proposed anyways in the same location. It would kind of just follow this line here and it would just go straight south. You would presume that there would be a road getting into these properties, however this gets laid out in its final plan, but that would be the option there, is that would be where the right-of-way or easement would be. Again, it's very planned in the future, but would kind of follow with where a road would keep coming off of Fairview. So that would be something that we would look at in 2027. And then that kind of gets us to 2029, which would be the final project submission. So it would be the CAT-X review. We would submit that in, and then in 2030, we would submit our plan package with right-of-way certificate for MnDOT or SALT. Forgive me, I forget what SALT stands for. There's so many acronyms. If anybody keeps them straight, I don't know how they do it. But so it'd be for MnDOT to review the plans, and then we would do bid opening in May of 2030 with construction or the award of the contract, and then construction to start in June of 2030. And then the project would hopefully be constructed in 2030. And then again, it says submit final package in 2031. That's just the paperwork side of it. Construction would be completed in 2030. I kind of went over that fast. It's an overview of kind of the steps that we've gone through before. Again, so it gives, if we're starting this now in 2025, construction isn't until 2030, it gives the city that time to set aside any funds for the project, for the city's portion of the project. Again, the full letter or the full application is due January 9th, and then the project presentation would be February 6th. And this would be phase 3 of the project. When they're looking at, when I say they, MnDOT, when they're looking at the project, because it is phase 3, and the same people have seen phase 1 and they've seen phase 2, knowing that the city is just building on the trail project is also a benefit for the project. And knowing that when we submitted a different application, we had phase 3 going to Memorial Park. That could be an option of showing that this is where we had intended on going, but due to budgetary restraints, we cut it back so that it was more achievable for the city to do that as well. And then showing them the other phases of the project or the trail that have been completed. Questions for me or Elizabeth?
If we were to apply for this and then get it, are we locked into doing it then?
Not necessarily. But if you're doing a full application and you're still uncertain as to whether or not you're going to do it, would be kind of, I'll say a little bit of a warning. I know the city has been awarded money on 2 other occasions and then given it back. And that doesn't look good, to be completely honest. One was done before I came to the city of Olympia. I think 2016 or 2017. It was when they were looking at doing the trail from Olivia to Bird Island.
Yeah.
And that was
That
just
was
because
because
of
of the ghost. That's why, sorry.
the ghost.
Yeah. I'll tell you later, when we're off
Alright.
camera.
To my understanding, that was a very large project and it was hard to come up with funds to offset what the grant was. And then I know one in 2024, we did
The
a,
CRP.
yes, the
Yep,
carbon
that I talked
reduction.
about.
We did get money at that point too, and then the city decided that it was too tight of a timeline and the budget is more, not as we were going all the way to Memorial Park, but then we also looked at cutting it to Fairview as well. But then that money was also given back, so I would say if the city is wavering on whether or not they wanna do it, maybe don't do the application, cause I would hate for the city to be awarded the project and awarded the grant, and then say, okay, we changed our mind again. Now, that money would not be unspent, I think they would divvy it out to the other projects that were awarded.
But it reduces your chances of it being awarded
Yes,
later.
'Cause
We
you-
don't, cause we don't have that, we already have that record of not following through, though we say, yes, we're gonna do it. We hire Kendra because she's not doing it out of the goodness of her heart. She's getting paid a lot of money to do all these things,
Mhm.
which brings the city a lot of money in as well.
Yes.
But then we turn around and vote no on projects we already said we were gonna do. We return the grant money. And then you've just taken somebody else's whole year worth of being able to get ready that was gonna go through with their project. It just looks bad. We don't have the follow through on some projects.
It just, like you said, the more it happens, the less likely you are to get awarded money, or that they'll say, well, are they actually gonna take it this time if we give it to them? Like I said, the one thing going for this project specifically is that it's building off of other projects that have been completed.
And it
That
was
would be my only
actually
option, I guess, but.
hitting the point, like you said, of the fact why we canceled. Stretching it all out to the cemetery, cause that was our plan when they gave us the money last time.
I remember.
And then we said no, so.
I will say that on that carbon reduction application, I wanna say it had to be completed in
26.
construction had to be 26.
It was a very quick turnaround.
And
Yeah.
from what I remember, they didn't have any applicants to begin with, and Olivia applied for it as well as Silver Lake. And neither project, they were both awarded money and neither one of them could do it because of the tight time frame, which off the record, I would say is poorly done on MnDOT's part if they're only giving you 2 years to construct a project. But with these ones, you're given 4 years to plan from start to finish, which I feel gives any city, the time to plan out as far as the budget is concerned. I will say the one difference from the budget side of this, for this phase that we have that I laid out, is that I included the budget that would be needed for an inspector on the project and the testing. In the past, we did those separately. In this one, I included everything together. So outside of this $318,000, to my knowledge, unless something comes up in a review that we would need to address, there shouldn't be any additional costs outside of that. And I think Elizabeth's resolution is just the support of moving forward with the application. Like I said, the full application is due January 9th.
How long is it, what's a reasonable amount of time to prepare an application?
To be completely honest, Dan Conklin did the vast majority of them in prior years. Justin and myself would review the application and we would submit or supply, I guess, the map and cost estimate as you saw there too. But
I would like to get the grant application, if you all want me to move forward with this, done before the holidays. Because when we get back from the holidays, the council meeting's on January 5th. the application's due on January 9. I don't wanna guess what else is coming up in early January.
It's 2 weeks.
It's just-
2 weeks, 2 weeks to consider this too long, too short a time.
It's going before, I have to talk with Jeff quick about when it's going in front of, well, the county, it's going in front of the county tomorrow.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah. But I mean, we can pass a separate resolution.
Mhm.
As part of the packet next time, if you guys want more time to consider it, that's fine.
Well, I
We can
just,
table it.
I guess when I look at this trail project here, and first of all, I enjoy the trails. I walk them a lot. They're nice what they have there. I also walk around that pond a lot.
Mhm.
And it's perfectly fine for walking around now, in my opinion. This was where I was in 2024 when we talked about this. And when I look at like, oh, that's a nice little spot to develop there, yeah, I think the trail might help a little bit with people that going, oh, look, there's a sidewalk. But I do feel that it's the capital allocation that we need to be thinking about and in a holistic manner, be thinking about what are the other things the city needs. And for example, I would be more open to saving this money from all of the different enterprise funds that we have to have money to put in infrastructure for houses that would be built there. And then maybe after it's developed, then come back to this idea of putting in a sidewalk around the pond. I somewhat think that pouring a 6-inch thick concrete sidewalk all the way around that thing is a deterrent to me a little bit. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to walk on, but again, not appreciably, it's not different from my point of view. And then we're gonna have to maintain that. And so we're adding to our annual costs. And right now, it doesn't cost us anything to just let the grass grow there, or whatever, that we're managing it the way it is. I don't really feel like putting a sidewalk around that pond is a good use of our capital right now. I think that we need to focus more on how can we grow. And then also think about, we have streets like 7th Street that is millions of dollars to fix up, and we don't have anything like that. So to me, this is a misappropriation of funds. I just don't think it's a good project.
I agree. I see, I mean, we've talked about, he just went through the budget, we've talked about, taking care of fire trucks, we've got fire trucks that are gonna be needing replacement, and $300,000 can go a long way as far as taking care of something like that.
And then the RO, the other thing axe hanging over our head is, what if we have to do that RO water project? That's gonna cost us a million if we get the 80,000 to cover 4 of the $5 million project that's projected to be. And, I don't think the RO project is a good use of funds either, but if the state says we have to, I'm not sure what options we have. And then we'd have to be raising the levy to come up with that $1 million, which is 3x more than what this is. So this is the same story. We've got good projects. I mean, money wasn't an object for sure. Let's do it. Great, we get 80%, but the 20% is still such a burden for our little town to handle. And for what benefit? That we can have a concrete sidewalk around the pond that you can already walk around quite freely. To me, it doesn't add up.
I guess I will say, it won't be concrete, it'll be bituminous like the rest of it.
I thought I saw 6-inch concrete.
There's a couple ped ramps
Okay.
where it goes onto the street, so we'll be.
No, you're right.
similar to
It's
the rest.
$150 a ton.
Yes. But then it would be more accessible to those who cannot walk or would need some assistance in that, or if they can't walk in an uneven surface. So that would be a benefit, is that it would be more ADA acceptable to go around the pond, at least on the south side. And that's just one benefit, I guess I would point out.
I don't mean to knee jerk this, but hey, life isn't fair. There's lots of other places that people can walk and whatever.
That I wanna say, that's totally fine. If
Yes.
that's the way that this council wants to go, great. This is why we're having this conversation.
Mhm.
We have done the legwork, we've done as far as we can go as staff, expressing a letter of intent, figuring out what's needed to check the boxes. If the city wants to move forward with this grant, if the city doesn't wanna move forward with this grant. Also fine. We
I'd
just,
like it a whole lot if we could say, well, in lieu of saving for this sidewalk, we're saving for infrastructure to help build homes.
fair,
But the thing is like. Those funds go to certain things. You can't pull from the park fund. To save for infrastructure, you know what I mean?
and we're
The
still,
park fund has to do with the trail. So it's not like it's not like. It's not money that's gonna be used anyway somewhere else, or that, for example, the park fund or the EDA, they're not gonna put money aside for the infrastructure. So that money is not gonna come back to us.
EDA might.
Well,
Because it is their development,
but-
and we are still looking at grant opportunities for infrastructure for housing. We're not, we have been looking at grants all around. This was a grant that could apply to our community, which is why we're bringing it forward.
Yeah, again, long-term real infrastructure things that need to be updated are unfunded. And I just don't think this rises to the level where we should be. Putting capital at this time. Like, I really think we should be focusing more on where, this is, so how much dry powder do we have, meaning how much cash do we have to do things? That's a small pile. And. It just doesn't rise to the level of. It should be done in my mind.
Blanca, what do you think?
Well, I think we need to put money into, like, the people that are, I get that's. Eventually, we're gonna have to do some street, we're gonna get there at some point, and hopefully we find some funds. To assist us when we get there, cause we're just not there yet. But in the meantime, the people that walk those trails are the same people that pay that levy. And the people that can't access those trails are the same people that pay the levy. Like, we are here to represent the city and to beautify it and make it a place people wanna live. We live here for 365 days a year. I don't wanna go find a walking trail on Bird Island or in Wilmer. They have, you know what I mean? Like, I wanna be able to have a walking trail in my backyard that I can use.
I would argue the trail
That's
is there.
nice.
I'd argue the trail is there for you to use it today.
Right, but what I'm saying is just because I can walk it doesn't mean that I should say that I don't want it there for somebody who can't. You know what I mean?
Certainly.
And a lot of I can tell you personally, because you know where my mother-in-law lives, that I see a lot of people walking there and all the way to the cemetery all the time, all summer long and in the winter. People, that is a walking route that people use, whether we make it easier for them or not, it's a walking route that people are using, and it would be more beneficial for more people if it was able to be, more accessible.
So it's a cost benefit ratio, and to me, $300,000 to allow a couple more people to go walk on it is not a good use of
No.
our funds.
No, some people turn around at the end of the trail, some people don't go around the lake, around the pond, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but-
And your opinion is your opinion,
Yeah.
you're 100% able to have yours, this is my opinion we're talking about now. And what I'm saying is that I feel that beautifying the city for its taxpayers is something that I feel is something I wanna stand behind. I feel like as a taxpayer in the city of Bolivia, I wanna know that I have a walking trail. I 100% was behind the walking trail to Bird Island. And that would have been amazing for our kids. Bird Island has so many things Olivia doesn't have. You know what I mean? And Olivia has so many things Bird Island doesn't have. Like, we as a community can unite as communities and do these projects to have, like, that could be a trail that eventually ends up to Daniels. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying right now, but I'm just saying, even if it doesn't, even if it just stays in the community, it is giving the people that work hard every single day something to see that they pay for. Yes, we know we pay for public works, we pay for our city, we pay for our police, we pay for that. But what can we use? Not everybody uses that stuff on a daily basis, obviously the public works part of it, yes, but it's just beautifying the city. You know what I mean? It's more of a like, I can see, I put tax dollars down to pay for that. And it's, you know what I'm trying to say here, like,
I get it.
it's a beautification of the city and
Makes it fun.
accessibility for people to be able to use those trails. Because I can guarantee you a lot more people would take that trail and walk more and drive less if they had that ability to go there.
Frame it a little differently in my mind, and if you want to just take it down to like a household level, you know, just came up with this analogy, but this is more or less how I'm thinking about it, like, okay, I've got a house, and let's say the roof is bad on my house, right? I need to replace that roof at some point, otherwise I'm gonna have greater damage and more damage that will cost more. And I've got a gravel driveway, yeah, I'd like to have a tar driveway or a concrete one, but what's more important? Keeping the water out of my house or having a nice looking driveway?
That's an extreme though, because a driveway is almost more than.
I'll be direct here for a second. You guys did a great job of explaining your points of view here. I'm just gonna add mine. You know, it's the part that I find attractive about this proposal is the match, you know, it's, you know, we're saying no to the match as well. When we're putting this into consideration, but it's really just a tough conversation to have after we had a truth and taxation meeting where we disclosed to the public that our proposed levy is 12.5% more than it was last year. And I know that this isn't gonna raise our levy nearly that far. And I know that we wanna be focused on growth and amenities and things like that. But I'm personally gonna push the not yet button.
I agree with that. I just don't think. This is a want, not a need, and we've got a lot of needs that we need to take care of before we take care of a want.
Everybody feel like they have represented their.
Just to be clear, this was not gonna increase the levy. They had already found funds within funds that are already there to, right? Or were you gonna add this to the levy?
The proposed way was taking budgets that already existed to have
So this was not gonna increase the levy at all.
But
Maybe diverting funds.
Right,
from
I'm
other
just saying that
projects.
part is
That's
like,
true.
I know we just had the levy conversation, this was not about the levy at
Sure.
all, the funds were already there.
Right.
And will be taxed and used regardless, they'll just be used on something else,
That is true.
so.
Like infrastructure maybe to build houses.
Anyway. Everybody feel like they've said their piece on this? Call for a motion to table this.
Moved.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Howard to table resolution 121 indefinitely. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Right.
Any opposed? All right. Moving down to item E, the stormwater, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Feel
Utility
free to head home.
policy.
Moving from a stormwater trail path to stormwater utilities. How's that for a transition? So this issue has been brought to the Public Utilities Commission for several meetings. And essentially, we realized we need a policy in place to establish kind of fair and equitable stormwater utility charges for all properties. And this includes vacant lots with no impervious surface or structure. So as you can imagine, stormwater runs off of every property, even if there isn't a structure on it. And so there are a number of vacant parcels in the city who do contribute to the city's stormwater runoff and do benefit from the city's stormwater management system, but aren't contributing to the stormwater infrastructure. And so one of the things that the PUC is proposing is to add a vacant parcel, no impervious surface charge to ensure that if you do have a parcel within the city, you are contributing to the utilities that your parcel does indeed benefit from, and stormwater is one that really every parcel benefits from within our jurisdiction. And so they went kind of around and around on this issue, and kind of the highlights is obviously adding in that vacant lot, no impervious surface charge to our fine and fee schedule. This would impact approximately 75 parcels throughout the city. They're proposing kind of two different fees. In one, that there's a residential vacant no impervious surface, which is 60% of the 2026 residential fee, so that is $10.07. And then the commercial vacant lots would pay the small commercial rate. So these are based off of, again, those 2026 rates that the council approved already. So that's the policy that PUC created and recommended for council's consideration at your meeting. And Matt, I know, was in some of these meetings as well.
Yeah, I was in-
If I
yeah.
missed anything,
No,
please let me know.
That's right, and it's really, it's about getting our infrastructure paid for. And there's vacant lots that are contributing, they're using it. And asking them to pay a little something to help support that, I think is reasonable. And also there is some hope that if people are just sitting on a parcel because it's very, very cheap to do so and costs nothing, you know, maybe this would spur them to develop something or do something with the parcel as opposed to just letting it sit. And you know, when it comes to city finances, as you all know, I'm very concerned about losing revenue for the city because we're, you know, it's obviously very tight. And so this seemed like a reasonable, equitable way to basically close some loopholes so people, you know, some properties weren't contributing to the infrastructure.
Sounds good.
Great, so what we'll do is you'll see this added change into, we'll be considering the fine and fee schedule at next December meeting, so. Awesome.
Okay, we're gonna move down here to reports. Are there any reports from council?
I guess my report was the PUC. So
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Well,
Oh, your thunder there, Matt.
oh, yeah.
I missed the EDA meeting last Wednesday. I had a prior engagement I could not miss.
Yeah, I can tell you, so the EDA spent their meeting on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, kind of exploring different marketing promotional opportunities surrounding EDA owned properties in the city. And so hopefully you should be seeing some banners going up at different sites, kind of advertising their potential to the larger populace before the end of the year. And then for the staff perspective, just wanted to welcome Ryan Kruger to the City of Olivia Public Works team. His first day was today. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, but I don't know if it was on the recording, you all have in your folders a copy of the New York Times article about Dan Kluber, who was assisted by our very own Olivia Police Department and the fabulous work that Officer Coots did in handling that case. So that's been highlighted for you all.
Thank you. Okay, we do have some notices here. First of all, we have holiday happenings coming up December 4th. Just prior to that is also the
Cornland USA open house.
There you go. That's from
4 to 8.
4 to 8. So it's a pop in, pop out kind of situation over there at Cornland USA. I would invite everybody in the listening area here to pop in and check it out. There's been a lot of work done by volunteers to get this equipment put together and in place at the armory. So we invite you to go and check it out. It starts from 4 o'clock, runs to 8 o'clock. And then also we have holiday happenings going on at the same time in downtown Olivia. That's Thursday from 4:30 to 7:30. From 4:30 to 6 includes some live music and some snacks and some activities for children and families. 5 o'clock is the official tree lighting. 6 o'clock is the light parade. And from 6:30 to 7:30 are those fabulous pictures with Santa and Mrs. Claus at FM Bank with delicious cookies. With no other business.
One last thing, Mayor. I just was looking at the weather on Thursday and it warms up to a balmy 21 about that. time.
Yes.
Hey, exciting.
I know, there's a couple retailers in town that sell those, hand warmers, so go and patronize them and buy some hand warmers. All right, well, no other business on the agenda. Call for motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Howard to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.